the author and he mentioned that one any of the things that is prohibited any when a woman any is having any menses. He said, "Wal istimta'u fi ma bayna surati wa rukbah." Although I have covered this, I just want to explain any one thing. Because in some books in your fiqh, it is mentioned any that what is haram any upon any the husband is to have any sexual any intimacy and they mention any the word any Mubasharah. And in some books in your fiqh, and he mentioned Mubasharah. Here in Umdatusaalik, the author and he mentioned wal istimta, yani having sexual intimacy with anything that is between the navel and the knees. What is any the meaning of al-istimta? If you were to go any deeper and to look into this meaning, al-istimta any basically any to have any a desire towards any sexual any intercourse, either any by touching or by looking. So istimta any can be achieved by looking without touching. So for example, and if a husband and he saw the hips any of the wife and he became any aroused, this is any a form of istimta, and this is not any permissible. And if we to look any at this terminology, the author any mentioned it is not permissible to have istimta. So istimta any can mean having any sexual any arousal without any touching, or a person any touches the body part any of the wife any between the navel any and the knee, skin to skin. This is also any a form any of istimta, even if there is no sexual arousal. But if a husband and he saw the this part any of the wife without any sexual any arousal, it is not any prohibited, because this is not any called istimta. Yani looking any at the private parts any of the wife, for example, without having any an arousal, without having any form of sexual any arousal, this is not considered to be istimta. When does any is considered to be istimta? It's considered to be istimta any when he looks any with arousal. So this is the meaning any of istimta. Or he touches skin any to skin. This is also any part any of istimta, even though there is no sexual any arousal. Some books any mention what is haram is Mubasharah. Mubasharah basically means it means any touching, regardless any whether there is sexual intercourse or no sexual intercourse. By touching any the body part any of the wife's skin any to skin, that is not any permissible. So what is any not any permissible is to touch. This is any the meaning any of Mubasharah. So what is the difference between istimta and Mubasharah? So Mubasharah is only any about touching. So looking is not considered to be Mubasharah. Whereas any if we use any istimta, it is both looking and also touching. So here any the author any mention wal istimta. Yani what is any prohibited any is al-istimta fi ma bayna surati wa rukbah. Anything any between the navel and the knee. So this is any the mu'tamad any in our madhab al-Imam Shafi'i. With regards any to talaq, any I think I mentioned that it is not permissible for the husband to divorce the wife when the wife any is in menses. Wa taharatu bi niyyati raf'il hadas, yani to take any the ablution, for example, or bathe the obligatory bath with the intention any to remove the ritual any impurity, like a woman and it says nawaitu raf'al hadas al asrar lillahi ta'ala. This is not permissible if a woman and is having having any menses. So all of this and we have mentioned. Now we have come to the part of istihadah. So today inshallah ta'ala I will explain about istihadah. Istihadah in the medicinal term it is called a chronic vaginal discharge. So istihadah is not considered to be menses. We mentioned that menses, the maximum number of days is 15 days. Menses cannot go more than 15 days. But what happens if a woman saw blood more than 15 days? So we say that part of it is menses, part of it is called istihadah. And it is just vaginal bleeding, vaginal discharge. That is not considered to be menses. Sometimes it is due to illness. Sometimes it is due to other factors. So how do we differentiate between the blood of menses and the blood of istihadah? So this is where our scholars mention there are 7 cases or 7 types. So I believe all of you have the notes. So to make it simpler for everyone, let us look at the poster. The notes can be wordy. You can read on your own. And maybe we look at it inshallah if there is a need to. But now we look at the poster. So if you look at the poster, it is said the 7 cases. So it will be good that you print the PDF. Huh? There is that you are also given the PDF. And this one is taken from the Hashiyah of Al-Imam Bajuri. Al-Imam Bajuri he wrote a book where he commented on Fathul Qarib. Fathul Qarib is a commentary of Abi Shuja'. So Al-Imam Bajuri he wrote a commentary on Fathul Qarib. And this particular book is named Hashiyah Al-Imam Bajuri. Hashiyah Imam Bajuri ala Fathul Qarib. This is an important book. And this is one of the books that we are recommended to read. There are a lot of benefits in this book. So Al-Imam Bajuri, he mentioned there are 7 types of istihadah. So this one inshallah I will cover. So we are not looking at Umdah now. Huh? We are going to another book. Why are we not looking at Umdah now? Because Umdah khalas. Umdah only tells you that the rulings of istihadah is mentioned in the major books, full stop. Straight away the author speaks about a woman who is having any istihadah, what must she do? Then finish any chapter of menses. But what we are going to do is that we are going to look into Hashiyah of Al-Imam Bajuri and look at the 7 cases of istihadah. So by understanding the rulings of istihadah, inshallah everything will become easy for us to understand, especially the ladies. Because a lot of questions were asked. The difficult questions in menses it's not what we covered. The difficult questions about menses when it is related to istihadah. That is why it is important for us to study it. So basically what you see in the PDF is a translation of direct translation of the words of Imam Bajuri. And then the poster is a summary. Okay, let us look at the poster. We begin by Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay. So now it is on the screen. Huh? Okay, let us look at the first type of istihadah. In Arabic it is called al-Mumayyizah. This is the first case. And it's very important. Huh? We have to pay attention to first, number 1. What is the meaning of Mubtada'ah? Mubtada'ah meaning a woman first time having menses. Mubtada'ah. And if, for example, a girl reached 12 years of age, first time any she saw blood. First time she saw blood. So we say she is a Mubtada'ah. First time any having menses. And Mumayyizah, she can differentiate the color of the blood. She can differentiate the color of the blood. One is dark, one is lighter. So the author gave an example, black and red. She sees blood of different types, such as black, strong, and red, weak. So this is called Mumayyizah. Mumayyizah in the Arabic language meaning able to distinguish. So if she is able to distinguish, then it becomes easy. The main ruling, and we say that the strong blood and is menstruation, the weak blood is istihadah. So for example, if she tells us that I saw blood for 20 days, and she is Mubtadi'ah, first time any having menses, suddenly 20 days. Then how we answer this question? We learn in Umdah, the author mentioned that maximum menses, how many days? Maximum number of days any menses is 15 days. But now she saw blood for 20 days. So we ask her the question, are you able to distinguish the color of the blood? If she say yes, she said the first 5 days is black, the rest is red. First 5 days black in color, then the rest of the days is red in color. So we say that the first 5 days is menses, the rest is istihadah. Meaning the darker blood is menses, the less dark is istihadah. Black and red. Black is darker than red. If she say, for example, I saw the first 5 days red, the rest of the days yellow. We say the strong blood is menses, the weak blood is istihadah. There was no issue. Everybody can understand. But there are conditions. There are conditions. It is not always the case like that. The condition number one is said it does not fall below the minimum number of hayd. What is the minimum of hayd? 24 hours. If a woman for example saw blood, she said that I saw blood for 5 hours, black in color. The rest is red. Now we cannot say that black is menses, because now it is the black is less than 24 hours. So this cannot be menses. So minimum it must be more than 24 hours. What is the thing that must be more than 24 hours? The darker blood. The darker blood must be more than 24 hours. Otherwise we do not qualify her to be Mumayyizah. We cannot be saying that the darker blood is menses because it falls less than 24 hours. This is the meaning of minimum of hayd. Minimum of hayd is 24 hours. This condition number one. Condition number two, it does not exceed the maximum number of hayd. What is the thing that does not exceed the maximum number of hayd? The darker blood. If a woman say that I saw black blood for 17 days and 3 days red in color, can we say that 17 days menses? Can we say that the 17 days no, because why? Now it exceeds 15 days. That is the maximum number of hayd. So this is condition number two. This one I think no issue, easy to understand. The difficult one is point number three. This one I need you to pay attention. And even my teacher mentioned when he teaches us this, my teacher he said that a lot of people, even some teachers made mistake in this. Point number three. This a bit tricky. The condition is that the weak blood is not less than the minimum period of purity. Before I mention in point number 3, I will just give an example. The example, yani, a woman saw blood for 20 days. First 10 days black in color, second 10 days red in color. How do we solve this issue? How many days is the menses? First 10 days black in color, second 10 days red in color. We say she is able to distinguish the color of the blood. If you look at the first condition, the dark blood is more than 24 hours, no issue, correct or not? 10 days. So first condition, it is achieved. The second condition, it does not exceed the maximum number of haid. 10 days is still within the period of menses. So it fulfills the condition. So we say that the first 10 days is menses, the second 10 days is istihadah. Tamam? So now we are saying that she is able to distinguish the color of the blood. So that is the answer. But when you go to number 3, now number 3 is saying the weak blood is not less than the minimum period of purity. What is the minimum period of purity? That's what we have studied. And in the chapter of menses, what is the minimum period of purity? It is 15 days. The minimum period of purity is 15 days. So I need to, all of you who are studying, to write this down. And if you don't write this, you will forget. You will forget. Tamam? Especially for men. Maybe for ladies, they might not forget easily because they are experiencing menses. But for men, easily we will forget. So we need to write this down. Point number 3 is saying that if there is a weak blood in between two strong blood. So what do you write? You say, at point number 3, you say, if there is a weak blood in between two strong blood. So Al-Imam Bujayrimi is talking about this situation. The situation that Al-Imam Al-Bujayrimi is speaking about is that a woman saw dark blood, for example, saw black 10 days. And then she saw 10 days of red. And then black again. So black, red, black. This is what Imam Bujayrimi is saying. Yani dark, light, dark. If that is the case, then the weak blood must be more than 15 days in order for us to say that the second strong blood is menses. So for example, the first 10 days black in color. Woman saw black in color first 10 days. Then for 15 days, 1-5, red in color. After 15 days red, 10 days black again. So 10 days of black, 15 days of red, and 10 days of black. Can you see it? This is what we meant by if the weaker blood is between two strong blood. This is what we meant. If the weaker blood is in between what? Between two strong blood. So you need to write this down at point number 3. Put in bracket. This is what the author is speaking about. Because if you miss this part, we will fall into confusion of what he meant. Earlier I mentioned that a woman saw blood for 10 days. The first 10 days black, second 10 days red. If you are confused about this, the third point, you might be thinking that the first 10 days cannot be menses because 10 days of red is less than 15 days. That is not the case. We say the first 10 days is menses, the second 10 days is red. Because this is a situation where the weak blood is not in between two strong blood. So the author meant if the weak blood is between two strong blood. So it must be 15 days and more. In order for us any to say that the second blood any that comes, any the strong blood, the second strong blood any that comes, we say that is menses also. So as what any the example I gave any earlier, first 10 days any black. She saw any black any 10 days any of black, and then 15 days of red, and then 10 days any of black. So we say that the black color any blood any is menses. The first cycle, the first 10 days is menses. So the weaker blood any is istihadah, 15 days. And then the second any dark blood any is menses. Tamam? But what happens any if the weaker blood is less than 15 days? What happens any if the weaker blood any is less than 15 days? This is where the author any mentioned the weak blood is not less than the minimum period of purity. So for example, any if she saw blood any for 10 days, black in color, and then 10 days red in color, and then 10 days black in color. So it is a same thing in terms any of the color, black, red, black. But what is any the issue now? The weaker blood is less than 15 days. So if the weaker blood any is less than 15 days, then we cannot any apply the color based any on the color, based any on the tamyiz. We cannot any apply any the menses any based any on distinguishing the color any of the blood. Because why? The weak blood any in between any two strong blood any is less any than 15 days. So this is any point any number 3. Number 4, the bleeding any occurs consecutively for at least 15 days. For example, a woman any saw blood, one day black, one day red. This mentioned also in below if you look. If any of these conditions are absent, the strong blood is too short or too long. The weak blood is less than the minimum purity, as what we mentioned. The bleeding is not consecutive. What is the example he gave? Black any one day, red the next, and so on. One day black, one day red, one day black, one day red. Khalas, any we say the application any of distinguishing any of the color of the blood cannot be applied. We cannot any be saying any that the strong blood any is menses, the weak blood is istihadah. That any cannot be the case, because it is not continuous. It is not continuous. So we can only any apply any if it is continuous. Continuous any meaning she saw blood any for 5 days straight any black, then red. She saw blood any 10 days any of black, then 10 days any of red. That is the meaning any of consecutiveness. If that is not the case, then the conditions any of tamyiz any is not there. So again, these are the 4 conditions any in order for us any to come to the conclusion any that the strong blood any is menses and the weak blood any is istihadah. So this is any the first case. Mubtada'ah, Mumayyizah. Now when we go on any to the second part. Can you look at the second one? The second one is mentioned here is Mubtada'ah ghayru Mumayyizah. Any of the 4 conditions any is not if it is not any happen, it falls any under the second category. Earlier we mentioned any if the red blood, if the weaker blood any is less than 15 days, then it is not considered to be Mumayyizah. It falls any under this category that we will speak about. The second category is again Mubtadi'ah, yani a woman first time any having menses. And ghayru Mumayyizah, she is not able to distinguish the color of the blood. Yani for example, the color of the blood is red all the way. What happens any if a woman, for example, first time any menses and she saw 20 days of red or 20 days of black. 20 days is more than 15 days, maximum number of haid. So now she is unable to distinguish the color of the blood. The first case, and we say that she is able to distinguish color of the blood. So we say the darker blood and his menses, the weaker blood is istihadah. But now she is unable to distinguish the color of the blood. So the answer to this question is that the menstruation is 1 day and 1 night, yani 24 hours. The first 24 hours is considered to be menses. The rest is considered to be istihadah. So she has to perform the prayers and she has to fast. And then if you look at the box there, it said this also applies to a distinguishing woman, yani the first case, who has lost one of the conditions of distinction. What are the conditions of distinction? The 4 conditions. Tamam? What are the 4 conditions? Say the darker blood many must be at least 24 hours. The darker blood cannot exceed the maximum number of menses, which is 15 days. Point number 3, which is important, that's why I mentioned that the weaker blood cannot be less than 15 days if it falls under 2 strong bloods. The 4th condition is what? The 4th condition that it must be consecutive. So if any of this condition is not present, she falls under the 2nd case. So what is the 2nd case? We say the menstruation is only the first 24 hours. The rest is istihadah. If she knows when the bleeding began, this is also a condition for the 2nd case. Condition number 1, she know when the bleeding began, meaning she said that I saw blood on the 3rd of the month. On the 3rd of the month, for example. So meaning she knows the beginning. So when she knows the beginning, so we say that the first 24 hours from the beginning is menses. The rest is all an istihadah. All an istihadah. But the problem is if she does not know, if she forgets, then she will fall into number 5, the case number 5 later on anyway. I do not know whether we have time to speak about number 5. So mutahayyira is number 5, just take note. This one is a tough one also, number 5. So I hope it is clear, inshallah ta'ala. So if any of the conditions, 4 conditions earlier we mentioned, is not does not happen, she falls under the 2nd case, which is Mubtadi'ah ghayr Mumayyizah. First timer that cannot distinguish the color of the blood. So we say that the first 24 hours is menses, the rest is istihadah. Okay, now we go into the 3rd one. The 3rd case, Mubtadi'ah Mumayyizah. Afwan, Mu'tada. The 3rd case is Mu'tada Mumayyizah. Now we have a new term, it's called Mu'tada. Mu'tada meaning she has menses more than once. She is not a beginner. A woman, for example, is having menses, all the while, 6 days. Every month, menses 6 days, 6 days, 6 days, for example. Suddenly, she saw blood for 20 days. So she said that normally my menses only 6 days. I saw blood 6 days. But suddenly, this month, I saw blood more than 15 days. That's what I mentioned in the poster. She has previously experienced menstruation and purity and is able to distinguish between strong and weak blood. So she is a Mumayyizah. Mu'tada, she has menses before. Mumayyizah, she can distinguish the color of the blood. So she said that the first 5 days, black in color. Then for 15 days, red in color. So this is an example of Mu'tada Mumayyizah. So it is mentioned here, Tamyiz takes precedence over Adah. This is a very important principle. So an example will be a woman, and he says that every month I saw blood for 6 days. and then suddenly I saw blood any for 20 days. The first 5 days black, 15 days red. But normally my menses how many days? 6 days. So now there is a difference any between her norm, which is 6 days, and the tamyiz here. Tamyiz any is the differentiation any between the color any of the blood. So the darker blood any is 5 days. Now this is any different any than the norm. Norm is 6 days, correct or not? Her norm any is 6 days. But she is able to distinguish any the darker any color which is 5 days. So now which one any takes any precedence? Any do we say that she follows her norm, or do we say that she follows the color any of the blood, the color of the darker blood? So that this is the ruling here. Tamyiz, yani the differentiation any of the color any of the blood takes precedence over ada, over the habit, over the norm, if they differ. So now there is a difference. It's 5 and 6. She said that my norm is 6, but now the darker color is 5. So which one any is given precedence? Tamyiz. So tamyiz any how many days? 5 days. Tamam? Provided no minimum period of purity intervenes. As what any we mentioned earlier. Between two blood. So now any we say that if there is a clash between habit and tamyiz, which one any we give any precedence? We give precedence to tamyiz. So he gave an example. What is the example? He say a woman any her habit any is 5 days from the beginning of the month. She then any sees 10 days any strong black blood from the beginning and weak blood red for the rest. So her menstruation is 10 days based on tamyiz. But her norm in this case any is how many days? 5 days. Why do not we say that she has to go back to her norm? This is an important question. The answer any is what we mentioned. That distinguishing the color of the blood is stronger than the norm. So I hope any it is clear. So below any is he mentioned again, if habit and distinction do not conflict, both are applied together. For example, she has menses 5 days every month. And then one day any she saw blood any for 20 days. The first 5 days is black, the rest any is red. So we say that the first 5 days any is menses. So this does not contradict and with the habit. Then khalas any we say no issue. The second part, if a minimum period of purity intervenes, each is considered a separate menstruation. One by habit and one by tamyiz. If a minimum period any purity. Yani for example, any she saw blood any for 25 days. The first any 10 days black in color. And then 15 days red in color. So now this is the minimum purity, 15 days. And then she saw any blood for 6 days. Her norm is 6 days. So now when we say that the first 10 days is menses, based on what? Tamyiz, because they're black in color. 15 days red, this is Istihadah. This is a weaker blood. And this is any the minimum days any of cover minimum days of purity, that is any 15 days. The second blood any that comes any must be menses. If the second blood any comes within any the 15 days, so we say that is any menses. That is considered any to be menses. Yani if any the blood any exceeds any 15 days, the second blood, and she is unable any to distinguish the color any of the blood, we go back any to her norm. How many days any is her norm? The norm any is 6 days. So that is possible. Yani the first blood any she follows any tamyiz, The second blood, and she follows any the norm. Clear, inshallah? So this is any the third case. Now we go into the fourth case. The fourth case is Mu'tada Ghayru Mumayyizah. Mu'tada again, she a woman and he has experienced menses. Ghayru Mumayyizah, she is not able to distinguish the color of the blood. So earlier number 3, she is able to distinguish the color of the blood. So now she is not able to distinguish the color of the blood. But she remembers any her norm, her habit. So the author gave an example. She has previously experienced menstruation purity, but sees blood one characteristic only. However, she remembers both the duration and the timing. So there's this thing, any duration and timing. Duration, any is the number of days. The number of days. The timing, any is when the menses any comes. Whether it's the beginning of the month, middle any of the month, or end any of the month. So there are two things here. One, any is the number of days any of the menses. And point number 2, any is at which point any of the month any does the menses any comes. So if a woman and saw blood for 20 days, any for example. So we ask her, normally how many days any your menses? She say 5 days. So we say the first 5 days any is menses, the rest of istihadah. This is in the case that she is unable any to distinguish the color of the blood. Meaning she say, I saw 20 days any red in color. 20 days any red in color. Normally my menses any is 5 days. So we say this mu'tada ghayru mumayyizah. She is not able any to distinguish. But the good thing is that she knows any her norm. She say 5 days at the beginning any of the month. So we say the first 5 days any is your menses. The rest any is istihadah. So the author mentioned she returns any to her habit in both duration and timing. Example. She menstruated for 5 days from the beginning any of the month. Then experience continuous any bleeding any more than 15 days. So we say that the menses any is 5 days and the rest any is purity, meaning istihadah. So she has to perform any the prayers, she has to wash any the private parts and then apply any something any on it so that the blood any does not flow. And then any perform any ablution, everything has to be inside any prayer time, yani inside any timing any of the prayers. After any the azan of Zuhur, after the azan of Asr, she has any to wash and what you call it, apply any a pad any or something to stop any the blood. And then immediately any she has to take any ablution and performs any the prayers. This is mentioned in Umdah. If you look any at the last part any of the chapter of menses. And she has to perform any prayers, and likewise any she has to perform any fasting. This one any is straightforward, easy. So a habit is established any by one occurrence. One occurrence any meaning a woman any say that I only experience any menses one time any in my life. And the first time any that I have menses any is 5 days. The second time any menses suddenly 30 days. So we say your one time any is enough for you to qualify under mu'tada. Even any for one time any you are considered to be a habitual. So we use any the 5 days of your menses any of your first time as the criterion any to apply to say that the first 5 days any is menses, the rest any is istihadah, because you cannot distinguish any the color any of the color of the blood. طيب. So this is any the fourth case. Mu'tada ghayru mumayyizah. So before any we enter into the fifth case. So just need to do a bit of revision. So we have Mubtada'ah. The first one is Mubtada'ah Mumayyizah. The second one is Mubtada'ah Ghayru Mumayyizah. So for the first and the second, it is about a beginner. A person any first time any having menses. Mubtada'ah. So there are two situations. Either she is a Mumayyizah or Ghayru Mumayyizah. If she is a Mumayyizah, meaning she is able to distinguish the color of the blood. Ghayru Mumayyizah, she is not able any to distinguish any the color any of the blood. If she is able any to distinguish the color of blood, we go back any to her distinguishment. But based on how many conditions? 4 conditions. You have to memorize the following conditions. If any of these conditions is not met, she falls under the second category, which is Mubtada'ah ghayr Mumayyizah. Yani the beginner who cannot distinguish the color of the blood. How do we ascertain her menses? Her menses is the first 24 hours. Easy. The first 24 hours is menses, the rest, everything in is istihadah. Tamam? So if any of the four conditions any is not there, she falls under the second category. Type. So this is any for the first part. The second part any is the mu'tada. Mu'tada also is divided into two parts. We have mu'tada mumayyizah and mu'tada ghayr mumayyizah. A habitual that can distinguish the color of the blood, and a habitual any that cannot distinguish the color of the blood. Habitual that can distinguish the color of the blood, again, any we go back to the color of the blood. Even though she said that every month any my menses is 5 days, but the color of the blood and he says first 10 days any black, second 10 days red. We say menses is 10 days and not 5 days. So if there is a clash any between the color any of the blood and her habit, which one any takes any precedence? With the precedence any is the distinguishment any of the color of the blood. This is the meaning of tamyiz here. So tamyiz any is not any age any of a small boy tamyiz. Tamyiz and in the Arabic language here any meanings he is able to distinguish the stronger blood any from the weaker blood. Ada is the habit. Type. So this is any mu'tada mumayyizah. But if she cannot differentiate any the color any of the blood, then any we say then she go back any to her habit. So we also any normally every month any how many days any your menses. If she say any 5 days, then we say 5 days any is your menses. The rest any is considered to be istihadah. You see, the thing is a lot of people any make this mistake, and I met a lot of people any they thought, for example, if a woman asks, for example, I saw blood any for 20 days. A lot of people any what they say, the first 15 days is menses, after 15 days is all istihadah. This is a mistake. It doesn't work that way. Clear, inshallah? Yani if a woman and he says that she saw blood more than 15 days, we cannot straight away say that the first any 15 days any is menses, the rest any is istihadah. So after any you learn any these 4 cases, then any you will understand. You will also any the question any whether she can distinguish the blood or cannot distinguish any the blood. If she can distinguish any the blood, any the stronger blood any is menses, the weaker blood is istihadah. Maybe any the stronger blood is only 5 days. So how many days is istihadah? 15 days. So it's very any important, because this has relation to prayers and fasting. So normally any those any who doesn't any study any this is what they assume. If she cannot distinguish any the color any of the blood, then we say you go back to your habit. How you normally any how many days any your menses is? If she say any 7 days, then the first 7 days is your menses. 13 days any is istihadah. So you have to make up any of your prayers from day 8. Since any day 8 it is considered to be istihadah, because she found out any on day 15. The blood any continue any until once any the blood enters any 16, then she knows any that she is having istihadah. If she cannot differentiate the color of the blood, then she go back any to a habit. Now any she knows any that she has to make up any for the prayer already. And now any she knows any that she has to perform any of the prayers. Because this is not menses, this is considered to be istihadah. Is there a lot of questions? Not many. Okay. Now any we go to number 5. Number 5 any is a bit headache. I do not know whether I should speak on this any next week. I think better yani we stop here. Number 5 any we speak any next week, so that any there you not any be confused any inshallah. Now any we look at the questions. Okay. Question is asking assalamu alaikum salam, during regular healthy times, period lasts any 7 days. However, now there is IUD for medical problem inserted for 4 years and no period comes. However, occasionally there might be a slight spot. Uh, uh, so along any with the white any discharge, there was a dull red, pink, brown spot. Due to this, I've stopped any my prayers for 3 days. Apart from the first spot, there is no more bleeding. Is it correct to give it 3 days minimum before any praying again? You see the thing about menses, we have to look at the presence of blood. If there is blood, then there is menses. If there is no blood, then there is no menses. So we base on the apparent what we observe. What we observe. Clear, inshallah. So as long as the blood is not any more than 24 hours, that is not considered to be menses. If the blood is more than 24 hours, as was what we mentioned, the minimum height, then it can be considered to be any menses. Ayo. After putting in any IUD, I no longer have blood. My question will be, I do not know exactly about IUD, but the question is that if there is a presence of blood. If a person say that there is no presence there is no any blood at all, then there is no menses. If there is no any presence of blood, there is no menses. So you have to perform your prayers and fasting. So the question asked, does that mean no menses at all since then? All my prayers and fasting is wajib? Yes. If there is no blood, meaning there is no menses. Ayo. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. I hope Sheikh's health is better. Nothing to do any virus of today, but when women travel without mahram, is there any minimum lady group number that she can travel? And can she travel for any reason, or only for specific reason, as Hajj and any Umrah? With regard to woman traveling, we have the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where it is not permissible for a woman to travel if she is alone, unless if she has any mahram together with her. But our scholars in the Madhhab al-Imam Shafi'i differentiate between traveling for wajib and traveling for something that is not wajib. So if she is performing the Hajj, for example, Hajj is wajib, she can travel alone. But the condition is that there must be safety for her travel. Either she travels in a group, or she travel alone. But the situation where she's traveling is that she is safe. She is in a safe situation. That is permissible. But with regard to other travel which is not any wajib, there are differences amongst the ulama. Some ulama mention the same thing. If she is in a company of women who are trusted and there is a safety, it is permissible for her to travel. If there is no safety then it is not permissible unless there is any mahram. So some scholars mention that this only applies to travel that is wajib for Hajj or Umrah. Some scholars mention that that is not necessary. If any form of travel unless if travel for haram. But normal travel, as long as there is any safety that she is traveling in a group or with a mahram, then it is permissible. Otherwise it is not permissible if there is any harm if she travels alone. Aywa. The Imam didn't say takbir aloud when he raises any from sujud, but says takbir aloud when he go back to sujud again. So I sat and found him in the sujud, confused any of the situation. The next takbir he stands up, but I haven't do the second sujud. I alerted any Imam by tasbih and he came back to sitting and led till the end. After the end of the prayer, I informed the Imam to make sujud sahwi. Is our prayer any valid since the ma'mum was the one lagging behind and no error in ruku any by Imam? I don't any quite any understand, but what I can see any is that this is a situation where the ma'mum didn't hear the takbir any of the Imam. The Imam any rise any from sujud. So he rise any from the first sujud, he sits down. So the ma'mum didn't know because he didn't say out the takbir any aloud. So the Imam sits in between two sujud and make the sujud again, second sujud. So, and then the Imam and he stood up. But the ma'mum now haven't do this second sujud. So by right, the ma'mum and he has to make the second sujud and go up. Because the Imam and he stand up. But now the ma'mum alerted the Imam and he by tasbih and the Imam came back to sitting and led any till the end. So it turned out any that the Imam, wallahu alam, what I can understand any is that the Imam go up any for the fifth rak'ah, for example. So the ma'mum knows this is a fourth rak'ah. So the ma'mum do the tasbih. The Imam any from the fifth rak'ah knew his mistake. So go down and do the tashahud. After the end of the prayer, inform the Imam to do sujud sahwi. After prayer, khalas yani. Sujud sahwi and it must be done any before salam. If you do your salam any and you have talk any to the Imam, there's no need. You cannot any do any sujud sahwi. But the question is our prayer any valid? If both of you any have done any the two sujud and tashahud, is valid. The Imam when he goes up, he made a mistake. But since any you did any tasbih and the Imam when he goes back to tashahud. So as long as the Imam and Ma'mum do two sujud, all the rukun of prayers and the tashahud, then the prayer is valid. Wallahu alam. Any more question? This is saying Alhamdulillah, the process very useful, possible to make them for all lessons. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam. My usual mention starts red, dark red, brown, then yellow. So now this is an example of Mumayyizah. She can distinguish the color of the blood. It can range from 7 to 9 days. 7 to 9 days, we say all of menses. Anything that is below 15 days, we are not concerned any about the color of the blood. All any is menses. No issue. Easy. Then she say, and it will remain yellow and green or green after this period. Until the 15th day and beyond. Okay, now if the blood and it goes beyond, then we speak any about istihadah. Okay, so the question is asking, in this case, I cannot salat the whole 15 days and only bathe on the 16th day. And the usual yellow discharge is considered to be istihadah. You see, sometimes any question is not clear. So when the question is not clear, I have to make some assumption. So let us assume a lady saw blood more than 15 days. More than 15 days. Because if you say that it is 15 days, then khalas. We say I say that all of it is menses. Correct or not? When does the ruling of istihadah come into place? If the blood exceed 15 days. Is the blood exceed 15 days? So if you're asking the question, if the blood exceed 50 days, if you are saying 16 days you saw blood. How many days? 16 days. So it cannot be all menses. So if you can distinguish the color of the blood, she said any red, any dark red and brown. Then we have any to determine how many days any are there. So the darker blood any is considered to be menses. The lighter blood any is considered to be istihadah. The darker blood is considered to be menses. The rest any is considered to be any istihadah. Clear inshallah. But if it is less any than 15 days, as what I mentioned, everything is menses. Ayo. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Taqabbalallahu minkum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.